Hey, what's up, Street Talks? Eric Kim from the Eric Kim Street Photography blog. So I just wanted to share with you some random turbo thoughts I had off the top of my head. So the first idea is when it comes to photography, what is a good or an interesting, purposeful, meaningful goal in photography? What's the aim? And I think a lot of us tend to think of photography kind of like this social media game, which means our purpose in photography is to gain more followers, to gain more fame, to make more money, to publish more books, to make some sort of impact, blah blah. And I think this is the problem with that kind of notion, is that the aim, oh, so nice, is that the aim ends up becoming far too externally motivated, meaning you're trying to please other people and you're trying to use some sort of external markers of success, which tend to not be so productive. Oh well, check out this view. This sunset is amazing, right? So perhaps a better goal for us in photography is that we're trying to make more powerful photos, more dynamic photos, photos that have more energy, photos that move us, photos that motivate us. And a very simple notion I've realized over the years is this: generally, the wider the lens, the better, in the sense that wider angle lenses allow us to force us to get closer to our subjects, to interact with our subjects and be more intimate. And I've shot with all the lenses over the years. Initially started with like a 50 mil, then went to 28 mil or 35 mil, then 28 mil, and then going to 24 mil. And actually now with the Ricoh GR version 3, I'm using the 21 millimeter adapter, and that's kind of been a huge game changer because 21 is generally quite wide, so this makes it kind of the most, the adapter is still kind of big and clunky, but it still makes it the most compact 21 millimeter out there. And why I love 21 millimeters is that it really does force you to compose in strange, unorthodox ways, and it makes you much more engaged. Even in street photography, portraiture, you get closer, you fill the frame more, and even though there's, it's unnaturally wide, it's wider than your own vision, I think it's a little bit more fun, it's a little bit more unusual, it makes it more challenging. And one thing you may or may not know about me is I really like weightlifting, powerlifting, blah blah. And so I'm a real big proponent of deadlifting, increasing 1 rep maxes, squats, and so forth. And for a long time in the past, I was more into kind of the bodybuilding, the whole oh, I just want to get super big and swole, blah blah. And over the years, it's kind of become this more of kind of like a fun game. And the weird things with games is that even with powerlifting, I'm just trying to increase my 1 rep max for all my lifts. And something I think a lot about philosophically is toward what end is that, who am I benefiting? Why do I do it? And honestly, the best explanation now is it's just kind of a game. I just kind of do it for fun, and there's no real functional, practical purpose. If I could deadlift 450 pounds, that's not going to help me with anything practical. But it's fun, it's challenging, it's interesting, and I think everyone could agree that all strength and power is good. To be more powerful and to be stronger, there's really no downside to it, certainly from a physical perspective. And so maybe even us as artists, what we're trying to do is create images and artworks which have more power, more force, more dynamism. Even what I'm trying to do with my writing and my blogging is trying to be more courageous and to write words which have more power, which have more dynamite. And even when I'm looking at other artists or writers or philosophers or thinkers, I really like the ones that I feel like have a lot of power and energy and dynamism. This is why I'm such a big fan of Nietzsche. I'm currently rereading his The Joyful Wisdom. And yeah, just to think that our words, our artworks can be dynamite. And ultimately, I think in life, maybe the goal is just to become more strong, to become more powerful, to become more self-confident, to become more courageous, and to continually create artworks and whatever you create, which continually build on top of each other. One thing I also realized from a powerlifting perspective, which is interesting, is that you can make really good gains, but it requires long stretches of time. So for example, my basic regimen with deadlifts has been this for the last few years, is just every week try to increase my 1 rep max by 5 pounds, which means the small 2.5 pounders, I just add that to each side week over week. Some weeks I do it, some weeks I don't, and that's totally fine. But, you know, assuming, let's say you could successfully add 5 pounds to your maximum weight week over week. In theory, that's like over 250 pounds a year, which is a lot. But if you're thinking about it from like a daily, weekly perspective, the progress sounds quite slow. But if you think about it from a yearly perspective, that's a lot. And so perhaps we could also take that physiological notion to our artwork, is that the point isn't for us to overnight become super powerful, great artists. Is really this consistent, slow, steady, never-ending process of always getting stronger. So for example, and then this is where like the physiological thing is important, because, you know, when I first started deadlifting, I started deadlifting like 135. And even if I wanted to, I couldn't deadlift 200 pounds the next day if I wanted to. Even if I, you know, drank 30 cups of coffee and put on the most hype music on whatever. So, you know, these things take time. And even with my artwork, my blogging, everything, I feel like I'm still always in a constant state of becoming more powerful, becoming more precise, becoming deeper, more profound, and more interesting. And my ultimate goal is to just maximize my own personal strength and my own wisdom and artistic ability until the day that I die. And so that's why it's important to try to supersede yourself, to go beyond your goals and go beyond your aims. And with enough time, enough decades on your belt, hopefully until we all die at age 140, you're going to be capable of doing really great things. So what are some personal life goals you have on your shoulders? What are some things you're working on? I would just encourage you to pursue it with your fullest zest. Better to aim high and fail than to not attempt at all. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Peace out.